When it comes to female desire, most men are looking in the wrong direction. They obsess over techniques, appearances, and physical attraction as if turning her on is just about touching the right places or saying the right words. But what no one tells you, and what few truly understand, is that a woman's desire doesn't start in her body. It begins in her emotions. And unless you know how to reach her on that level, everything else will fall flat. You see, for most women, sensuality is not mechanical, it's emotional. Her arousal, her passion, her surrender, they're all deeply tied to how emotionally safe she feels with you. Not safe in the physical sense, but emotionally grounded. Can she trust you with her truth? Can she be soft around you without being judged or dismissed? Can she feel held, not just touched? These are the real questions that determine whether or not she'll even allow herself to want you. This is why some men who aren't the most physically attractive, rich, or dominant still manage to draw women in effortlessly, because they intuitively create emotional resonance. They know how to speak to her feelings, not just her fantasies. They listen, they attune, they show presence, not pressure. And through that emotional alignment, they unlock the kind of desire that's deep, consuming, and unforgettable. It's important to understand that women live in a world where they're constantly objectified, seen for their looks, their bodies, their usefulness. So when a man comes along who makes her feel emotionally seen, who engages her heart and not just her hips, he becomes rare, desirable in a way that goes beyond the superficial, because that emotional safety gives her permission to feel. And once she starts to feel, the doors to her desire swing wide open. Emotional safety isn't softness, it's strength. It's the ability to be consistent, calm, and clear. To be a mirror that reflects her worth back to her. To respond to her emotions with maturity instead of defensiveness. And ironically, the more emotionally safe she feels, the more sexually expressive and uninhibited she becomes. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Think about it. When a woman is relaxed, when her nervous system isn't on guard, when she feels understood and embraced, her whole energy shifts. Her femininity flows more freely. Her body becomes more open, responsive. That's not an accident. That's biology meeting psychology. That's desire born out of trust. So if you want to tap into the deepest levels of female desire, stop focusing on impressing her. Focus on feeling her. Be attuned, be emotionally intelligent. Make her feel like she's not just safe with you, but safe to be fully herself. Because when a woman feels emotionally secure, she doesn't just give you her time. She gives you her trust, her vulnerability, her fire. And in that space, true desire is born, not from pressure, but from presence. Never forget, her heart is the ignition, her emotions are the flame. And if you learn how to light that fire, her body will always follow. There's a profound difference between being wanted and being chosen. And every woman knows it, even if she doesn't always have the words for it. Most men stop at wanting. They show interest, desire, attraction. They pursue, they compliment, they flirt. But very few take the next step, making a woman feel like she's chosen. Not just available, not just beautiful or desirable, but seen in a way that says, you are not just another option. You are the only one I want in this moment. And that difference changes everything. You see, women are constantly being wanted. It's not rare for a woman to be admired. Strangers on the internet, men on the street, co-workers, they all want something from her. Her looks, her attention, her body. But when a man makes her feel chosen, it's not about what he can get from her. It's about what he sees in her. It's not transactional. It's intentional. Being chosen speaks to her essence. It tells her that you value more than just her appearance, that you've looked deeper, that you're not distracted by shiny alternatives or caught in emotional immaturity. It tells her that you're grounded enough in yourself to make a decision and brave enough to stand by it. And in today's culture of options, that kind of clarity is magnetic. Because here's the truth most men miss. Female desire isn't only awakened by how much you want her, it's awakened by how much you value her. When she feels like she's just a temporary spark in your indecisive world, her guard goes up. But when she feels like you're choosing her, not just out of convenience, but out of conviction, something shifts. Her femininity responds, her trust builds, her desire deepens. And choosing her doesn't mean obsessing over her or putting her on a pedestal. It means moving with clarity. It means setting intention in your communication. It means showing her that your interest isn't based on what's easy or available, but on what's right for you. It's the way you prioritize her, the way you listen to her, the way you remember small details and follow through on your words. It's in the consistency of your energy and the depth of your presence. When a woman feels like she's chosen, she blossoms. Her walls come down, her loyalty increases, her desire to give, to nurture, to connect multiplies. Why? Because she's no longer performing to keep your attention. She knows she has it. And that knowledge creates emotional safety. And as we've said before, emotional safety is the foundation of feminine desire. So if you're tired of being in situations where women lose interest, where the energy dies out, or where things feel uncertain, ask yourself this: am I simply expressing interest, or am I truly choosing her? Because in the end, women don't crave being pursued by everyone. They crave being chosen by someone who sees them fully and moves toward them with unwavering clarity. And when you become that man, decisive, grounded, intentional, you become the desire. Not because you chased her, but because you chose her with purpose. One of the most misunderstood truths about female desire is this: her mind is her primary erogenous zone. Not her body, not her lips, not the curve of her waist or the sound of your voice. It's her mind. And if you can't reach her there, you'll never truly reach her anywhere else. Most men assume desire is triggered by what they do to a woman. They focus on moves, lines, and gestures. But what they often miss is that a woman's arousal starts long before the first touch. It begins in the way you make her think and feel, the way you engage her intellectually, the way you invite her into deeper thought, the way you create space for her mind to unfold without fear of being shut down or belittled. You want to turn her on? Make her feel intellectually alive. Ask her the questions no one else asks. Listen, not just to respond, but to understand. Show her that her thoughts carry weight with you, that her intelligence isn't something you tolerate, it's something you're drawn to. Women aren't just physical creatures. They're deeply mental, emotional, spiritual beings. And the man who learns to seduce her mind opens doors that no amount of charm or money ever could. Because once she feels mentally engaged, once she feels stimulated and challenged in a way that expands her, she starts to associate you with growth, with discovery, with a kind of freedom that most people never give her. That's powerful. And here's the deeper psychology behind it. When you activate a woman's mind, you're not just turning her on. You're inviting her into vulnerability. You're showing her that she doesn't have to hide her brilliance or pretend to be smaller just to be loved. You're saying, I see all of you, and I want more of it. That message, whether spoken or simply expressed through energy, is electric. It builds trust, it builds intrigue, and it awakens a deeper layer of desire that's far more lasting than anything physical. Because here's the truth. Her body may respond to your touch, but her soul responds to your curiosity, your willingness to meet her where she is, not just emotionally, but intellectually. When you lean in and ask what drives her, what scares her, what she believes about love, freedom, purpose, that's when the walls begin to fall. That's when she begins to feel not just attracted, but safe. Safe enough to let the full version of herself come forward. And when that version shows up, so does a kind of passion that can't be manufactured or manipulated. It's real. It's raw. It's alive. So don't underestimate the power of conversation, of thought-provoking silence, of shared perspectives, of mental foreplay. Because when you speak to her mind, you speak to the gatekeeper of her desire. And if you can hold her there with intelligence, with depth, with curiosity, everything else will follow. Not because you mastered her body, but because you honored her mind. One of the deepest yet least understood drivers of female desire is her longing to surrender, not in weakness, not in submission, but in trust. But here's the twist. She can only surrender when she senses strength. And I don't mean physical strength or loud dominance. I mean a quiet, grounded kind of power. A man who doesn't need to force control because his energy already commands respect. What many people don't realize is that the feminine naturally wants to flow, to express, to feel, but it can only do so fully in the presence of something solid. That solid thing is the masculine frame. A presence that's calm, clear, and confident. Not arrogant, not aggressive, just steady. You don't have to raise your voice or puff your chest. The most attractive men are often the ones who say very little, but everything about how they carry themselves says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to lead. This kind of subtle dominance is incredibly attractive to women, not because she wants to be controlled, but because she wants to feel safe letting go. In a world where she's constantly having to make decisions, protect herself, and maintain boundaries, a man who can hold the container, who knows where he's going and can guide without forcing, is like a breath of fresh air. And let's be honest, it's rare. Most men either shy away from taking the lead because they're afraid of being called too forward, or they overcompensate by trying to control everything. But real masculine leadership is not about control. It's about direction. It's about knowing when to step forward, when to pause, when to hold back, not to manipulate her, but to give her the gift of clarity and safety. When a woman is with a man who leads with this kind of balanced dominance, something inside her begins to relax. Her guard drops, her body softens, her energy shifts. That's when her desire deepens, not just because she feels attracted, but because she feels free. Free to be feminine, to express, to feel sensual, to melt into the moment. And this isn't about trying to act alpha or mimic dominance. It's about being grounded. It's the man who takes responsibility for his energy, who isn't shaken by her emotion, who doesn't need to compete or prove himself. He knows what he values. He's emotionally composed. And most importantly, he's not afraid to hold space for her complexity without running away or trying to fix it. That kind of man doesn't just turn her on, he earns her respect. And from that respect comes admiration, attraction, and the kind of intimacy that goes far beyond the physical. So if you want to ignite her feminine, don't overpower her, outpresence her. Be the calm in her chaos. Be the direction in her uncertainty. Be the anchor in her storm. Because the man who leads without domination, who offers guidance without ego, becomes the one she desires not just in body, but in soul. One of the most misunderstood truths about long-term desire is that consistency alone isn't enough. Yes, women want emotional safety. Yes, they want reliability. But once they feel seen, chosen, and safe, there's still something else that keeps desire alive. Mystery. And not the kind of mystery that's manipulative or confusing. I'm talking about emotional depth that isn't poured out all at once. The mystery of a man who holds something back. Not out of fear, but out of intention. A man who reveals himself slowly, thoughtfully, like turning the pages of a book she never wants to finish. You see, one of the reasons women lose interest over time isn't because they stop feeling love. It's because they stop feeling curious. And when curiosity dies, so does intrigue. That's why the men who hold a certain emotional weight, who don't overshare too quickly or wear every feeling on their sleeve, tend to linger longer in a woman's mind. They create tension. Not the kind that frustrates, but the kind that invites her to lean in, to want to know more, to keep discovering. There's something deeply attractive about a man who isn't in a rush, to explain every part of himself. He's not hiding. He's simply at peace with being a mystery. He knows who he is, and he doesn't need to be constantly validated. That self-assured stillness is what fuels female imagination. It creates space for desire to stretch out, to grow over time, to evolve into something richer than infatuation. And here's the psychology behind it. The feminine thrives in uncertainty when it's paired with emotional security. When she knows you're emotionally anchored and she doesn't have to second-guess your presence, the small pieces of mystery feel like an invitation, not a threat. It's what keeps the connection dynamic instead of static. You don't have to play games. You just need to be multi-layered, complex, real. Because in every woman lives a storyteller. And if she can't continue to write a story about you, if she already feels like she's read the last chapter, her emotional engagement starts to fade. But when you give her just enough to feel safe and just enough to stay curious, she invests more deeply. She doesn't just want your presence, she wants to understand you, to explore you, to uncover the layers you've yet to reveal. That's what keeps the spark alive, not just for weeks, but for years. Emotional mystery becomes a mirror for her own depth. It challenges her, it awakens her, and it invites her into a relationship that doesn't stagnate, but grows. So don't be afraid to hold some things back, not as a shield, but as an offering. Let her earn pieces of you the way you're earning hers. Let her discover the man you are in layers, not just moments. Because the man who reveals himself too quickly may gain her interests, but the man who reveals himself intentionally will hold her desire. And in a world that moves fast and reveals too much too soon, be the slow burn she never wants to put out. Let's talk about something most men overlook, yet every woman silently yearns for. It's the feeling of being elevated, not praised for convenience or objectified for desire, but revered in her essence. Every woman, at the core of her feminine energy, wants to feel like a goddess in the presence of a man. Not because she demands worship, but because her spirit longs to be honored. Here's what that really means. She doesn't want to be treated like a goal, a prize, a trophy you win when you say the right things or check enough boxes or perform well enough to gain her attention, because goals are chased, used, and then replaced. But a goddess is respected. She is seen, she is felt beyond the surface. And this has nothing to do with being submissive or placing her above you. It has everything to do with the energy you bring into the space, the way you look at her, the way you speak to her, the way your presence tells her that her being is valuable, not just her beauty, not just what she can do for you, but the energy she brings into your life, the softness, the depth, the emotion, the intuition. When a woman feels like a goal, she performs, she competes, she guards herself against losing your attention. But when she feels like a goddess, she softens, she opens, she radiates, she becomes more feminine, more alive, more magnetic, not because you forced it, but because you created a space that invited it. That's the secret most men miss. The more you truly honor a woman, not idolize, but honor, the more she naturally wants to give, connect, and offer you everything without needing to be asked. It's not about buying gifts or giving endless compliments. It's about seeing her in moments most men overlook. How she thinks, how she nurtures, how she processes, how she shows up for others. When you acknowledge the sacredness of those details, when you speak to her essence rather than her appearance, you touch a part of her no one else has reached. And here's the truth. The woman who feels adored at her core, not for what she looks like, but for who she is, will give you a version of herself that no one else has ever seen. That version isn't earned through performance, it's awakened through reverence. So the question isn't, how can I impress her? The real question is, how can I make her feel like she matters? Not just to me, but to herself when she's with me. Because when you stop chasing women as goals and start uplifting them as the goddesses they were meant to be, you unlock a deeper level of connection, passion, and devotion. One that's not based on competition or strategy, but on energy and truth. And that's when desire becomes more than chemistry. It becomes worship expressed through presence. So choose wisely how you show up. Because the man who makes her feel divine never has to beg for her attention. She offers it freely, from a place of fire and grace.